And so what I actually believe from my own experience now is that the things that we think we can control are absolutely just like it's not true. You don't. So I've expanded so much energy trying to control everything from like this is the way I think the garage should be organized to like nope, this is what I think we should be doing for the holidays and here's the menu and here's our goals for this year and it's just a lot to yeah, I still have goals, but I'm not going to be attached to how I get to them. Or my goal is to be of the highest level of service that I can be. Universe, show me just what is the next step I need to take toward that. And when you let go, it's actually an incredibly liberating experience. And I have so much energy now because I'm not using that's keeping things rigid. I actually don't believe in the traditional concept of death. What I believe in is just as you named it, that it's a transition. And we have many transitions in our lives, is one of them. Death is another one, both inevitable to have this human experience. But yeah, it's quite a transformative moment when you can realize that your loved ones don't leave you. The connection just changes form. To me, it's really about where do you get energy?
Mm.
Where do you get joy? Where do you spend your money? Do you like to spend your money on yoga retreats? Do you like to spend your money on books about quantum physics? Do you like to spend your time in meditation? It is those kinds of acts, those kinds of behaviors that are all going to be clues that are pointing you toward just the next step. At no point are you going to be getting like a big lightning show of like, ta-da!
Okay, I cleaned the ship, I saged the deck, journaled my feelings. So, where's my guest?
Manifestation complete. Connection established. Colleen Coleman. A rare soul who sees death not as a shadow, but as a doorway. She walks with those who grieve, midwifing their sorrow into sacred transformation. Prepare your hearts, dear travelers. The vessel of the quiet bloom has arrived. The council welcomes you.
All right, and we have Colleen Coleman. Welcome. I'm Captain
Thank
LA of the
you.
Ethereal Voyager.
Nice to meet you. Colleen Coleman, Captain of the Voyager 5.
Nice to meet you. I've been enjoying meeting people as I travel through the cosmos. And every person I've met has given me insight to different aspects of life. And as I scanned your ship here, I see that you're an evidential medium and an end-of-life doula. Can you
That's
tell
correct.
me how you've gotten into that?
Yeah, it was a little unexpected, to be totally honest with you. I certainly didn't think my path would or my ship would take me here. Um, I ended up I was on a corporate track for doing marketing, specifically product marketing and product launches, and unexpectedly ended up losing my dad now 11 years ago. And that would kick off a spiritual journey that eventually would lead me to uncover my spiritual gifts of mediumship through a way I think we're going to talk a little bit more about later here in our conversation. And as part of me exploring those gifts, I felt very called to do additional training, which led me to explore and study the end of life experience and how to support that through doulaship.
That's amazing. I speak a lot recently about my father passed away as well, and actually it's been 10 years, and how that opened my eyes to things I've never expected. Like, I'm a skeptic naturally, so like ghost and the idea of all those things never really, it's like I believe it when I see it type of thing. And the experience I had when my father died, where he pretty much, I guess you can kind of say, possessed me and my sisters for 72 hours, really changed my perspective about life and what it means to die or transition. really,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
you're not, nothing, energy, is neither created nor destroyed. So, but feeling his presence very strongly after the fact, it took away any thought in my mind of, oh, like once you die, that's it. Because he was very much alive.
I'm so glad you got to have that experience, and I'm aligned with you. I actually don't believe in the traditional concept of death. What I believe in is just as you named it, that it's a transition, and we have many transitions in our lives. Birth is one of them, death is another one, both inevitable to have this human experience. But yeah, it's quite a transformative moment when you can realize that your loved ones don't leave you. The connection just changes form.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely made me feel better about it because it was
Mm,
something that happened suddenly, so we didn't get to
mm,
say goodbye in the
mm,
sense of, okay, bye, Dad, but we got to
mm,
really say goodbye because he was like in us for like 3 days.
mm,
So
mm,
that was an amazing experience for me. But before we go any further, we do
mm.
have a little segment here, and it is called the Cosmic Wheel of Wisdom.
Awesome.
And so I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to spin the wheel. Let's see. And let's see
Ooh,
what you get.
okay. This is fantastic. Oh,
What's the
what's
most
oh,
awe-inspiring natural place you've ever visited?
okay, this is hard. This is a hard one to pick because I'm an outdoorsy person. I grew up in the
Oh,
outdoors. And my career was in outdoor recreation before I transitioned to my professional services
oh, nice.
for those on the other side. So this is hard. But what I will say is, I feel like in the United States, the Grand Canyon is not overrated. I'm not even a
Mm,
desert person, but I will say that place absolutely blew my mind because you truly can, you transcend into time as you move
mm,
down into the canyon. You see the layers of, I mean, ancient, you're seeing ancient times exposed through this
mm.
rock, which is just, I mean, way to feel very small, way to feel very
Right.
small. So I would name that. And then I have been blessed to be able to do some international travel. And I will say, going to Everest Base Camp and staring at Mount Everest is also, I've
Mm,
never felt so small in my life as well. So those are two places that absolutely you just feel the magnitude of nature's glory. Um,
mm.
and yeah, just very humbling places to experience for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now I've never gotten a chance to go to the Grand Canyon.
Mm,
That's on my list. I did
hmm.
do some traveling across country, road tripping, just
Yeah.
because uh, America is actually a really, really beautiful place.
Hmm.
You can forget where you are sometimes, and I think one of the most beautiful places I've been was in Montana.
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah, I got to go to Yellowstone and got to see the geyser and all of that, and it was really cool. And the hot springs and everything, and it just felt like I was in a different place. All the animals, just so free, and it's a beautiful country.
Yeah, a lot of power there too with all the geothermal activity.
Yes, I mean, yeah, I felt I kind of unexplainable. It was just majestic, I guess is the only
Hmm.
word I could really think of.
Hmm.
But yeah, and speaking of that, so let's transition back to where we're talking about death and transitions, really.
Hmm.
And, a lot of people fear because it's the unknown. They're not really
Hmm.
sure what's going to happen there. But what has nature taught you about death?
Mm. Well, I would say certainly nature and energy, which to me are the same. The wisdom that I have been imbued with is really to die well. It means we need to live well. And that has profound implications for how we approach everyday life. For me, it's really intrinsically linked to what does living a fulfilling life mean for each of us as individuals? What's our soul calling for each of us as individuals? Are we able to make space to reflect and review where we have some common regrets? That can come up quite a bit when somebody is very near the transition of their end of physical life. And then thinking about the importance of being present and mindful in our daily actions and in our relationships. I know I'm in progress reforming, really always trying to be busy and productive, and they're not the same thing. So I'm learning how to abide, how to be present, and knowing that is not time wasted. That's the best way I can spend my time. And then really thinking through, the legacy and impact. And that means contemplating what each of us as individuals really wish to be leaving as our legacy, and how living well and in our deep authenticity can really shape that legacy. It's not about leaving millions of dollars necessarily, right? Or maybe placing a park bench at the Grand Canyon, but maybe it is. It's what are those things that are truly authentic to you and the reason that you are here and the way that you live. So that's where I would guide us.
Yeah, and I mean, I absolutely love that, to live well, to die well is to live well. And, like you, I am an ex, get her done, like, that's to do, just do. I guess it's just the culture that we're in, the way that I was raised. When you're doing something, that means you're good. And if you're not doing anything, what they say, idle hands are the devil's playground, or, whatever. And I had to learn, like you said, that being busy doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting stuff done. It's not really productive a lot of the time, just to be moving for the sake of moving. And so I've learned to find different ways to meditate, really. Like, some of my favorite things is to maybe just sit in silence for a little while. Maybe 10 minutes out the day if I've just been moving around a lot. Just stay still, think of nothing, do nothing, just be. And one of my favorite quotes someone said is, we're a human being, not a human doing. So,
I
I
love
try
that
to
quote too. Yeah.
yeah, I try to take that to heart because it really is in the existence. And yeah, and like you said, leaving a legacy, it's not just about something physical, but for me, I feel like my legacy would be a legacy of love, right? I just want to be able to meet people and just leave a lasting impression of love. And that's I feel like for me is my greatest greatest gift to the world.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm like really feeling that from you. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I think about mine, it's really around like, how can I bring light? How can I
Mm,
bring, and light feels different than levity, right? Levity to me feels like, oh, we're going to bring lightheartedness to the situation,
right.
but some situations don't call for that. And sometimes end of life can be one of those, end of physical life. But can I be there? Can I be fully present as a companion for those making
Mm,
that transition? And or can I be there fully present to be a companion for those that have experienced loss through
mm,
end of physical life? And in that way, just shine a little light and help people find their own light or turn their own light up when it's been dimmed.
mm,
And I think, when we think about dying well, I, up until now, have experienced death or a near-death experience, but I'm absolutely fascinated by reading accounts of NDE, so near-death experiences. But for the passings that I have been able to be witness to, I just absolutely believe that we don't pass alone, right? We may pass alone here in this realm, but when we cross that bridge, there is somebody there to meet us and there is someone there to guide us. I don't believe we do that by ourselves. And, I think that people that have a religious belief are certainly entitled to their ideas of what happens. I don't subscribe to those things. I don't believe in hell. I believe that there is a place of healing in the afterlife for those that need it. But I really think that when we transition, we go to a place that's full of love and goodness. And doesn't mean there's not consequences for our right. It doesn't mean there's not consequences for our actions here, because I do believe in karma. But I just think that in Western society, we in general have this innate fear of that transition because we're really afraid of the unknown instead of trusting the goodness of, whether you call it the greater intelligence, of spirit, of universe, of God, however you want to refer to that higher power. It's just, of course, we'll all know once we get there.
Yeah.
But I think there's certainly a big aspect of living well that is challenging for us to explore in this culture that we're in the US and beyond. We'll just call it Western society, because we're really afraid to look at what living well means. If it means that we're on a hamster wheel of a job that doesn't satisfy us, or in a relationship that doesn't satisfy us, in a lifestyle that's not good for us, and we become conscious of those things, well, then we have to make changes. We can choose to make changes or stay in that place that doesn't really serve us. And I think that's hard. I think that takes courage, and I think it takes a lot of guts. And I don't think everybody feels that they have the luxury of being able to do that.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you're right. Like, having to face different parts of ourselves can be extremely difficult. And then in this society, like you said, Western society, it's contradictory. It's like you are supposed to live life this way, and this is what we think is a good life. But then in reality, it's like for example, when COVID happened, people started to realize, like, wait a second, we were told that this is a good life, but then when something like as crazy as a global pandemic happens and everything shuts down and the way of life is changed, now what are we left with? And now then people have to, okay, so what is a good life to me? And so I do think that a lot of people started opening themselves up to really explore those things. And so we have these different types of movements. I'm a nomad, so then we had the nomad movement. And, people really started to open themselves up to something different. But at the same time, it's still considered like a sub lifestyle. Like, it's like, oh, you move around a lot, or you're doing what you love. Like, okay, you're not doing something traditional, and it's
Right.
and it's like, well, yeah, because didn't you see that we can't rely on anyone else but ourselves, and we only have this life in this body. Now we probably have multiple lives. I'm leaning more into, what's the term? Reincarnation. I think I believe that more and more as I get older. But right now, as I am right here, I only have this life. And I feel like purpose of life is to live it the best that you possibly can, to have fun with it, to really explore and enjoy, because what's the point of, like you said, running on that hamster wheel, chasing the bag, and at the end of the day, when you transition, you cannot take that with you, you know. But
Oh my
what
gosh,
can
you're
you?
giving me. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like, but that was hard for me because I come from a very traditional family
Mm.
who are like, this is how we know things are supposed to be. This worked for us, so in turn, this should work for you. And I'm like, no, don't you see?
Mhm.
This doesn't work. So I have to do what works for me, and that's very
Mhm.
radical, you
Mhm.
know. But
There's so much goodness that you just shared right there, and absolutely, you're giving me goosebumps. And I commend you on being brave and radical. Like that takes so much bravery and courage. So well done. Certainly for my own experience, when I first learned I was a medium, which was just about 3 years ago, I was pretty dumbfounded, and like not in a good way, because it didn't line up with my idea of where my life was going and what my plan was.
mm,
I was planning on climbing this corporate ladder in these awesome outdoor industry companies and helping get people outside, which I believe still is important.
yeah.
However, I got called to the carpet, if you will, by spirit, when I understood that, oh, turns out not everybody experiences their dead people or other people's dead people. I thought everybody did. Whoops. I didn't realize it was unique. And there is a lot more mediums than I even realized. So I'm so blessed to have a beautiful community of brothers and sisters that also have and share this gift. But for me, it took me a year to decide if I could accept a new identity for
Mm,
myself, for what I do in the world, for who I am, because mediumship is not something that you do, it's something that you are.
yeah.
Could I claim it? Could I own it? And then, most importantly, could I be of service? Which
Mm,
required me to really prioritize my development.
mm,
Um, and ultimately, I said yes. And ultimately, it has taken over my life in the best way. But I think a big misconception that people have, or it's certainly not something I've heard a lot of people speak about, is once you find that gift, if you are lucky enough to figure out what your purpose is, and like we'll say more about finding that in just a second, but if you are lucky enough to discover what that is, and you are even more fortunate to be able to do that very thing that your gift is and your purpose here is, uh, I don't know about anybody else, but I've been hit with uncertainty, like tsunamis of uncertainty, as I've stepped into transitioning away from this lifestyle and this job track and this career I thought I was going to have. My marriage fell apart. Like it all changed. And the only thing I could do was trust and surrender. And it's opening up a life that is so much more fulfilling than I ever could have dreamt of. But nobody talks about getting the shit kicked out of you while you're figuring it out. It's not all hearts and roses.
And I love that you said that, because first of all, yes, like you, you know, I had this whole idea of my life and the way that it was going, and I've always been very spiritual, so it is who I am, but as far as career, I was somewhere else, and it just once you accept that, or once you accept it, it's like there's no turning back.
No.
But like there's literally, like, you walk through a door and then it closes behind you, and that's it, and you have no choice but to move forward. And I remember I heard someone say it was like, you walk through a door and it's dark, and you're just kind of, the door behind you closed, you're just kind of feeling your way through, you have no option but to go forward until a door appears, but you have to trust and remain open. And then once you walk through that door, once you're ready, then, like you said, it opens up like a life that you couldn't even imagine. But
Mhm.
that's what happens when you answer your purpose, and the uncertainty is 1,000% real. I mean, I'd be lying if I don't deal with uncertainties every day, because
Mhm.
it's kind of just you have these ideas, but you have to be able to go with the flow of life,
Mhm.
because nothing is for certain. And really just trusting the universe is the biggest thing, trusting God, trusting, whatever you believe in to guide you down the right path. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, for a lot of people out there who I'm sure they probably feel like you felt like, you know, if I go this route, everything that I ever known is out the window. And then what
Mhm.
do I do with that? But I mean, as you said, on the other side, it's something that you couldn't even dream of, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll share, I have two siblings, a brother and a sister, and they're both older, and we all have very different spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs.
Mm,
And my sister and I are pretty opposite on the spectrum. She's an incredibly devout Christian, and I respect that so much. I am on the shamanic spiritual side over here, very different. But one thing she said to me while I was going through a very tough day, one time is I said something about, oh, like, I said something to the effect of, that adage of God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. And she said to me, Colleen, no. She said, God, I believe, gives you things because we're not meant to get through them on by ourselves. We're meant to ask for help.
mm,
And while she comes at her perspective very differently than I come at mine, I think that is some incredible wisdom that she shared, because it's all about asking for help, asking your own soul, what is it that you want me to be doing? Asking your spiritual team, help me, please guide me.
mm,
Asking your God or your higher power, what do you want me to be doing? And that is just a conversation she and I had that has deeply stuck with me. And when people ask me about their own purpose and navigating to their own purpose, one thing that I like to advise and share is, in terms of practical application of how do you uncover those and recognize your own gifts. To me, it's really about, where do you get energy?
mm,
Where do you get joy? Where do you spend your money? Do you like to spend your money on yoga retreats? Do you like to spend your money on books about quantum physics? Do you like to spend your time in meditation? It is those kinds of acts, those kinds of behaviors that are all going to be clues that are pointing you toward just the next step. At
mm.
no point are you going to be getting like a big lightning show of like, ta-da, here it is on a silver platter.
Right.
It's not how it works, at least in my experience. But what does, it's all about following the breadcrumbs. And the breadcrumbs start with, where do I like to spend my time, energy, and money? Because
Mm,
those are breadcrumbs leading you toward, okay, just keep doing more of that. Okay, just keep doing more of that. And sooner or later, it all makes sense. You're just picking up puzzle pieces every time you do those activities.
Starborn wanderers, empaths, sacred space keepers. Have you been avoiding the inevitable? The Intergalactic Council presents the Threshold Attendants Guild, offering gentle exits, soul ceremony preparation, and grief alchemy across timelines. Every life deserves a closing ritual. Every death, a map. First-timers receive a free energetic cloak woven with ancestral threads. Because no one should cross the veil in just vibes and hope. Tend the threshold, hold the sacred, and let grief become your guide.
right, right. You're absolutely right. And yeah, it's not gonna just like open up to you at all at once, because one, I don't think we could handle that. I think the
No.
fun is in figuring it out and playing around and getting the little bits and pieces and putting it together. I think that's the really mystical part of it all. But on that note, creating sacred space is essential, not
Mhm.
just in life and death, but what role do sacred spaces play in helping souls transition peacefully?
That is such a beautiful question. So for me, in a different lifetime, well, I still have a couple of actually short-term rentals, but in a different life, I used to do interior design for lots of different projects and specifically short-term rentals. And one thing that I just notice with my guests who are not experiencing end of life, at least to my knowledge, but there's a real tangible and beautiful thing that happens when someone feels safe. And when someone feels safe and their senses are satisfied, whether that's through touch, through sight, through sound, through smell, I'm forgetting one, but that emotional safety is in place. There's like the term that I talk about is hygge. So it's a Danish word for comfort and coziness. If somebody can have that in a space, it allows them to let their guard down. And this is true for both humans and animals. Watch my dogs be comfy and cozy. And I know you have a dog as well. So I'm sure you've observed like when they fully relax because all of their senses feel safe. And you take that and you apply that to helping somebody feel that in an experience when they're getting ready to cross over. Sometimes it's quite difficult to do in a more clinical setting like a hospital, but it's possible. Can you bring in music that is going to make somebody feel more peaceful? Can you bring in essential oils and either rub them on their feet or diffuse them in the room? Can you maybe bring in a little piece of fabric to put over a lamp so that it's a softer, more diffused light? It's those kinds of things that I think can really help create space for people when they're looking to transition. But when it comes to, a more personal space for those that are still in this realm, and even communal spaces, it's really about fostering that sense of peace and connection. So connection to either thyself or others. And it's things like, do you have a special chair or a special cushion in your home that you like to do your meditation? Yes. Okay. You're nodding your head. Yes. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Right. So like that is your sacred space. That is your sacred portal for travel. Right. And maybe you don't just leave those moments of connectedness to yourself there. Maybe it's like also you have a special tea that you really like, and that helps transport you. And it's creating rituals. I think I'm really big into rituals. So I think they're awesome. But to me, that really signals, okay, I'm about to move into this space and I'm going to create a sacred container, whether it's just with myself or with others. Certainly when I have a client into my home in my physical space for a reading, which I always love. It works online just the same, but when somebody comes into my home, I can offer them tea and a hug and get cozy. I really love that. We do rituals to set the space together and create the intention together before I open up the channel and connect with their loved ones on the other side. So to me, ritual and that connection are key components to creating that peace and safety that creates that space for us.
Yeah, I'd love that. And yeah, I definitely have like a ritual that I do every morning. And I was talking to someone how I really love like herbs. And so I have all these kinds of teas, and that is just a part of my ritual. I love my tea ritual, right? Like kind of like the Japanese. I do take it seriously. And then as far as like I have like a whole morning routine. And so that involves, I guess, candle magic, and so a part of that is like lighting my candles and setting my intentions, and then getting my tea, and just the smell of it relaxes me, and that puts me in that space ready to get into my morning meditation. And so, I have a whole routine around it. And I think that without that ritual, I wouldn't feel as connected, not only to myself, but like to my ancestors. And that's like one of my biggest things because my altar is for them. And that sets the mood in my space. I feel like offering of the candles for them kind of sets the vibe, and it protects my space. So yeah, I'm super into rituals and herbs and all of that stuff. And on that note, how connecting with ancestors, how does that play in part of embracing the transition process?
That is such a big and cool question, and not one that I've actually spent a lot of time contemplating, but just intuitively to me, it's like such a powerful part, right? And again, I deeply, deeply believe we never cross alone, and certainly when I am doing a reading, a mediumship reading for clients. Of course, friends come through, and maybe ex-partners can come through, but most of the time, and a lot of the time, it's family. And it's family coming through to maybe offer apologies or encouragement, say things that were left unsaid, to offer healing for patterns that those ancestors contributed to, or things that they had unknowingly, unconsciously created that left the person that's there for their reading, with a tougher aspect to navigate in this lifetime. And I just think when my own dad crossed over, his was pretty sudden, but I did have the opportunity to be at the bedside as he was passing, which is quite an honor, even though we had a very complicated relationship. I just had such awareness once we turned off the life support and he transitioned, that I now had a very powerful angel. And my dad, not angelic in any way, like that man lived hard, but you know what I mean, in the sense that there was somebody who was going to help protect and guide me now from the other side. And he has turned out to be one of the most amazing dad, in many ways even more powerful in spirit than he was for me in this physical life.
I completely, I 100%, 1000% resonate with that. Yeah, I feel like my dad has been, like you said, probably a better dad now than before. It's really weird how that happens. I also remember that once he passed, I couldn't think of anything negative at all. I was really like trying, like, I thought you were a jerk, but can't remember any of that. Like, all I remember is the good stuff. And my God, I see. But it all just went away, and I just really felt his true essence, his true love. Like, underneath all the trauma, he really loved us. So, and that reflects now more than before. So, yeah.
And that really speaks to me, to your compassion as well, and your ability to expand in love and grace, because certainly nobody's perfect, and we don't, at least from what I'm learning, like, we don't pass away and become saints.
Right.
We pass away and we're still the same people, we're still the same personalities, we just have a different perspective, so we can understand more either where we're at in our own learning journeys, and maybe where we fell short as we do our life reviews once we do make that transition. So kudos to you for your ability to have such compassion.
Yeah, I can't help it. I really just love, and I'm just like, hey, at this point, it doesn't make sense to think about anything negative. We can't change it, so all we can do is just love you. So imagine you could design a sacred space for your final transition. What elements would you include?
Oh, yeah, good question. You're full of good questions, no surprise. So for me, if I had the ability to plan what I call a vigil, which is the active part of passing, I would want to be someplace near the ocean, the ocean speaks very deeply to me, which is interesting because I didn't mention that as my favorite awe-striking places in the beginning of this conversation. But to be close to those crashing waves and to be able to smell the brine and the salt air and hear the gulls, the seabirds, that's really deeply moving to me. And then, to have the people very closest to me in that space, just their presence, I feel like even if I left today, everything is in a really good place in terms of my relationships. So I feel peaceful with that. But to have them there, and I have a deep connection with cedar, the cedar tree, and rose. So I would be having, my ask would be to have those essential oils be put on my body and being diffused in the room. And I think to be able to pass with, with the morning light, I just feel like the morning light is so soft and sweet. Yeah, that's what I would wish for myself.
Wow, that's beautiful. I was envisioning
Thank
it
you.
as you were saying
Thank
that.
you.
That's very beautiful. So, you said gratitude is the greatest healer. How does practicing gratitude shift the way we experience both life and death?
Oh, well, I have a gratitude practice because even, in those moments of uncertainty, like I was mentioning earlier, I have to remember all the things that I do have and all the things and all the ways that Spirit has provided for me and all the ways, even the rejection that I've experienced. Like, wow, have you tried dating lately? Dating is insane. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, I gave up. We're not even going to go down that route. Yeah.
Like anytime there is, or any other jobs or whatever, any opportunities that doesn't work out, I remember rejection is protection, and I feel so grateful for that Spirit is keeping me on the path that's for me, and that to me, is a huge blessing, and I want to celebrate that. And there's times as I've been going through this transition, waking up and aligning with my spiritual gifts, where again it's felt hard and confusing, and just remember I feel so grateful to be able to be of service in a way that is deep and soulful. So to me, I can't separate it from my daily life. And there's not been one contact, one spirit person that I've had come through from the other side that says, I wish I would have worked more. I wish I would have had more money. None of that. It's always, thank you for what you've done for me. And so I just feel like we are meant to live from a place of gratitude.
100%. I feel like life is just like one big, like, I don't know, just gift to be grateful for, right? To operate in gratitude really does change your perspective on many things. I was doing one meditation and it was talking about literally putting everything into perspective of like abundance. And it's like the air that we breathe. We don't have to wake up and say, oh, I need some air. Like, you wake up, you breathe, and it's abundant. You don't have to try to breathe. You don't have to figure out where the air is going to come from. It's just naturally there. The way the environment works with us, the way that the trees give us what we need and we give back to the trees. Everything works together and it's just perfect. And when sometimes, we can get wrapped up on life, and I like to think about that, like literally what we need to live and thrive actually is already abundant around us, and it just makes me so grateful. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So, but on that, let's talk about like overcoming the fear of the unknown. Like, so one, especially when it comes to death, and that transition, we're scared a lot of the times because we don't know what's going to happen there, or even when it comes to answering the call for our higher purpose. That's like, you'll never know what you're going to get with that. So it's like, that is another level of fear. And then also embracing that and letting go of old ways of life. That's another fear. And that can create roadblocks. So, what advice would you give people to overcome some common fears to embrace the unknown?
Yeah, I am also a reforming control freak, type A personality. So this has been one that's been personally extremely challenging for me. And from my own experience, I had what I thought this was this beautiful life, and it was all mapped out and everything. I could see where things were heading, and, was doing the job with the 401k, with the great marriage and everything. And wow, stepping away from that was so scary until I realized everything that I thought was going to be true in my future was also just a mirage. And so, what I actually believe from my own experience now is that the things that we think we can control are absolutely just like, it's not true. You don't. So I've expanded so much energy trying to control everything from like, this is the way I think the garage should be organized, to like, nope, this is what I think we should be doing for the holidays, and here's the menu, and here's our goals for this year. And it's just a lot to, yeah, I still have goals, but I'm not going to be attached to how I get to them. Or my goal is to be of the highest level of service that I can be. Universe, show me just what is the next step I need to take toward that. And when you let go, it's actually an incredibly liberating experience. And I have so much energy now because I'm not using that's keeping things rigid. And, from like, what advice would I offer? Oh my gosh, like, the liberation and letting go is so absolutely powerful and divine. And I believe this is the way we were supposed to live and dwell in this space of learning to trust and surrender. Because, like, again, I just believe control, or the idea that I have control of anything but my own self and my own, I would say, responses, not reactions. That's it. You can't control anything else.
100%. 1000%.
And so, with death, like, sometimes we know the end is coming and sometimes we don't. And I've had lots of conversations with other people, philosophically, both in the end of life space and people that are not in that space. And, is it better to know or is it better to not know? And ultimately, I don't think one is better than the other. I couldn't decide for myself if I was given the choice.
Yeah.
The good news is, like, it's not in my control, so I don't have to decide.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to know. I just surprised me. Then I don't want to know, because I would kind of just obsess over it. So I couldn't do it. I'd rather just let it be and happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. Like, the idea of what you envision being a mirage, right? Because it's not reality, because it hasn't happened. And so the idea that knowing, it really, we don't know anything. I think that, like you said, that's freeing and liberating. I think that was the greatest thing for me when I realized that, oh my God, like, I don't know anything. It feels good. I don't have to know anything. It's like, okay, what a relief, I don't have to pretend. I can just honestly say, like, I'm just living life, figuring it out. I don't need to know what's going to happen. I'm trusting, because I'm not, I won't say I was a control freak. I don't know that, but I will say that I do like details. I like to
Yeah.
know the details. I like to know.
Yeah.
But really letting go and embracing it really does lift a lot of weight off of your shoulders, right? Because you're not trying to
Yeah.
figure out every little thing. It's like, I don't know. I think that's just the best thing I ever accepted. I really don't know.
Yep. Just what's the next best step?
Absolutely. Just guide me. I realize that it's really like driving a car at night. Unless you turn on the high beams, you can see further distance. But when you're just driving, you really don't know. And this was really true until I got glasses, because driving at night before glasses, I was like, I really don't know where I'm going. It's like I'm driving into the abyss. I'm just gonna go. But it was really just relying on that light in front of me, and that's all I could see. And as long as I can see that, I know I'm okay for right now, and just keep following that. And that's just like the metaphor for life, right? It's just,
I
you
love
can
that.
see right here, and you're okay for now. Don't worry about what's way up there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. And let's see. Sorry. I think we covered some
No
of
problem.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've got to wrap here soon before my clients.
Yes,
She'll be here in
and
like 5 minutes.
okay, yeah. So this is the end. That's why I'm just getting it all
Okay.
together. We've hit everything, so it's good.
Beautiful.
All right. So the last thing I really just want to say or ask you, what is the most profound spiritual message you've ever received?
Oh my gosh. That is a beautiful question. And I will tell you, it's one that I received very recently in a ceremony with plant medicine. And in the ceremony, it was very dark and shadowy. And it's not that it was like necessarily scary, it was just dark. And the images I was seeing, I was just in this forest and I couldn't find the trail. I mean, maybe not unlike your example you just shared about driving.
Mm.
And I said in my mind, my mind said, I don't know the way.
Mm.
And my soul said, this is the way.
Mm.
And it was so profound for me just to know that, yeah, I can only go as far as I can see it. And that's one step at a time. And it was so deep for me that I'm honestly thinking about getting it tattooed on my wrist.
Yeah, I got chills. Like,
thank you. It's the way is not knowing the way. And I accept, I surrender, and I've been blessed to be, I get messages often, but to me, that is one that just jumps out right away is this is the way.
I think that's perfectly tied into what I just said, I guess. So that worked
Yeah.
out well. But
Yeah.
I think that's something that everyone could really take away from this, along with many other things. There's a lot of jewels here, but we don't need to know everything. I think
Right.
that just accepting where we are right now is the best thing that we could do for ourselves and
Yeah.
for everyone around
Yep.
us. And on that note, if you could leave one message to everyone out there, especially those who are dealing with transitions and also those who are opening up to their gifts.
Yeah. Yeah. For the transitions, and I know it's not different. It might be one and the same, but for those that are experiencing transitions with their loved ones, I would offer, just the knowledge that relationships don't end. They just change form. And if you are open to staying connected with your loved one, they will do everything in their power to send you signs and let you know that they're still part of your life. So that's one thing. And then the other aspect is if you are just waking up or even to begin to explore your purpose here, don't give up. Mine took almost 11 years to figure out what it was. And I was exploring all kinds of things. Is it this? Is it that? Can I be a grief counselor instead of a medium? Don't give up. It doesn't come all at once. And then one day it will be so profoundly obvious. You'll be so grateful.
I think that's perfectly said. And on that note, thank you so much, Colleen, for your wisdom and your presence. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I think this was an amazing conversation and very healing as well. And
thank you.
So before you leave us, where does the universe take you next?
Well, I have actually some events in the Seattle area that I'll be doing. So I've got some group readings in Seattle proper, in Edmonds, which is north of Seattle, and then out on the Olympic Peninsula. So you can check out my website, ColleenColeman.com, to follow those. And I will be helping connect people across the quantum. And you can find me online doing that. Again, you can book with me at ColleenColeman.com.
All right. Thank you. And until next time,
Beautiful.
guys.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, but what if that was my soul twin? We're energetic twins. I love that. I found a soul twin.
Possible. Shall I initiate soul link request?
Where to next, Arden?
The sacred threshold closes, and a new current begins to spark. Next, we shift from soul to circuitry, from the mysteries of spirit to the mechanics of the mind.